Hey everybody, welcome back to a little bit more of some relaxed World Cup chat. The last time we left off, we had a look at, well, we were talking about England's 2-1 win over Tunisia. Since then we've had quite a few games. I've actually been away for a couple of days, which is why I hadn't really covered that much, but we've got a lot to talk about today. Some very interesting games, and then probably a little preview coming up for England versus Panama on Sunday the 24th. Belgium Tunisia has just finished 5-2. I didn't get to watch the match because I was driving, but I did listen to it on the radio. It sounded very entertaining. I'm not too sure what we can tell about Belgium from this game. Like, are they potential world beaters, or are they like a Kevin Keegan era Newcastle? Time will tell, I guess. I've spoken about Belgium before. You know, scoring 5 goals is obviously brilliant. They were playing up against Tunisia. Tunisia were not the same kind of Tunisia that played against England, in as much as they were less defensive. They conceded a lot earlier, to be fair, after 6 minutes. They weren't as defensive. They did cause Belgium problems. What is it going to be? Match facts or statistics? Statistics. There we go. You can see Tunisia had sort of 15 shots, 5 on target, 6 off target. I don't know what the other 4 are. Oh, 4 were blocked, sorry. That was a lot more even before the end of the game. I think once Tunisia kind of felt like they were out of it, maybe once it was like 4-1, I think they kind of like lost a little bit of, lost a little bit themselves, as sides tend to do. And I think before that as well, Tunisia actually had more possession than Belgium as well. So very, very interesting game. Obviously incredibly entertaining. Everybody loves to see 7 goals in a game. Hazard getting 2, Lukaku getting 2, and Batshuayi finally getting 1 after several chances going begging. Not always his own fault, but there you go. And Tunisia scoring a couple, bringing it back to 2-1 after they'd kind of looked dead and buried. Hazard with a penalty, which went to VAR because they weren't sure if it was outside the box or not. I think everyone realised it was a foul, but as it turned out, it was on the line, which counts as inside the box for those who don't know. And then Lukaku with a typical kind of Lukaku finishes, really. It puts him on 4 in 2 games of the World Cup, obviously clearly on fire. He was in the internationals before this anyway. He's been scoring bucket loads for Belgium, and when you have, I guess, the service of De Bruyne, Mertens, Hazard, you're going to be okay. You're going to get chances, and Lukaku's a guy who, when he gets chances, finishes. I think that was his main problem at Man United, was they were just a bit too defensive, and as a result, he was not perhaps getting the service which when he gets, he scores. Reminiscent of a kind of Ronaldo-esque, where it's like, if you give him a chance, he'll probably put it away. Same with Harry Kane. These are the kind of elite strikers. So yeah, that puts him on 4. As I said, it's difficult to read into this one. I don't think we'll know too much about Belgium until they play England. My thoughts are not that they're going to batter England. My thoughts are that it's going to be a very close game. There are, places there where you can see that England could get at Belgium. Tunisia had a lot of chances, and a lot of the time you're like, well, if Harry Kane was on the end of that, or Marcus Rashford, or maybe Raheem Sterling, would that be a different result to that one? And then there were times when Belgium's defence looked cranky under pressure. Having said that, there were times England's defence looked like, a little bit stretched under pressure from Tunisia. And if, both these sides are struggling with Tunisian attack, and no offence to Tunisia, but they clearly don't have as good a players as Belgium and England. And if that's the case, when Belgium and England face each other, we should see some goals. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if Southgate tries to adapt his tactics, because I think he shouldn't, personally, because he wants to play more possession-based. I think we saw that Tunisia got at Belgium in that way. They cut off the supply to Lukaku. I say that, it's 5-2. You know, these guys, they don't need much of a sniff, and they get it. So it's incredibly dangerous. I would probably expect Belgium to beat England, but I would also expect both teams to have qualified by that time. In other words, I would have expected England to have beaten Panama. Obviously, Belgium are on 6 points now as well, so it could be a case where, depending on the results of other groups, it might not be the worst thing in the world to finish second. That is also an interesting thing to kind of pick up on there, really. So that's my kind of initial thoughts, I guess, on England's group through that one. We'll talk about, I guess, England versus Panama at the end of this video. I guess start off in chronological, go back. Japan beat Colombia, which was a bit of a shock. Obviously, Colombia had a player sent off very early on, which affected the game somewhat. Kagawa scoring the penalty, which came from what was just a comical, handball, really. Which I understand sometimes when a player will be like, okay, I'll put my hand out, I'll sacrifice myself to stop this goal. It's going to be a penalty and a red card, but maybe they don't score the penalty. But in the 6th minute, that seems really dumb. If it was the 89th minute, I understand. And you were perhaps drawing or even trailing, I could understand that. But it's not. It's the 6th minute. I love Japan's kit, by the way. I think it's a really cool kit. It's one of my favourite, I think, from the competition. And then Colombia struck back with a free kick, which they put under the wall, which was really well taken, I think, very well struck. But Colombia just, if you're going to play, 92 minutes or so with 10 men, you are going to be in for a hiding, really. And Japan are a very, very industrial side as well. They're very hardworking. They will just, they will be all over the place, and they will make that count. They had 59% possession. Going to be interesting to see what happens with Colombia. That's not an easy group by any means. Where are we? We go back up here. Group H, Poland, Senegal. We saw Senegal beat Poland. Poland didn't look great, I wouldn't say. But yeah, I couldn't honestly pick who's going to get out of that group. I mean, obviously Japan and Senegal look in pole position, but with both teams, with all the teams having 2 games left, we will see, won't we? It's going to be a really interesting group, that one. Russia, Egypt. What can you say about Russia? I was definitely one of those people who at the beginning of the tournament was saying that Russia are really bad. I mean, they were the second worst ranked side in the tournament. They had terrible preparation leading up to the tournament, and their players looked average at best. But I guess there's always something about a home advantage that can really push you forward. And to be fair, I think they've played against a poor Saudi Arabia side and an Egypt side where clearly Mo Salah is not fully fit. They did what they needed to do there, 3-1, looked really good again. Uruguay-Russia will be a fascinating contest. That is one of the games I think I'm really looking forward to, because it's like, okay, how good are Russia and how good are Uruguay? Because Uruguay beat Saudi Arabia 1-0 and they laboured to that 1-0. So how good are these teams? It's been a fascinating World Cup, because there's been matches in here where you've expected one team to come in and absolutely dominate another team, and they haven't. And there's been games where you've thought it's going to be very tight, and it's just been one-way traffic. There's been just very, very interesting games. I think we went through a little period where we had all the 1-0s. Kind of, anyway. Yeah, look, we had the 1-0 day there. And you look at, like, say, Iran against Spain, and you go, Spain are only winning that 1-0. I watched that game. Spain were absolutely all over Iran most of the game. They just couldn't find a way through their defence, and that's been a tactic which a lot of teams have used, which is 9 men behind the ball, maybe have one up top, try and hold it up, try and get the counter-attack, frustrate the team. That Spain game, I think, it did look like it was only a matter of time till they scored. They got lucky with the goal, and then they didn't push on from there really either. So I think, again, we just don't know how good Spain are. They were one of my kind of tips for the tournament, I guess, before we started, and that was obviously before their manager went. I still don't know how that has affected them. I mean, you imagine they're still playing pretty much in the same way. So yeah, it's fascinating. Same way we don't know how good Uruguay are, we don't know how good Spain are yet. Portugal, we probably know how good Portugal are, to be fair. I think they've performed exactly how a lot of people thought they would do, which is they gave Spain a good game and they beat Morocco. I wouldn't necessarily say it was comfortable. I wouldn't necessarily say Morocco's a bad side either. But I think they are very much a one-man team. They don't have bad players around Ronaldo, but there's clear focus on him and what he does. He obviously got a goal. Great header. I mean, really good header. And that probably puts them through, doesn't it? They've got to play Saudi Arabia. They've got to play Iran next, sorry. You would imagine Portugal would be able to beat Iran, because Iran, I guess they've still got something to play for. They had that win over Morocco. Morocco are out. So, yeah, it could be interesting, actually. Portugal, Iran. Spain, Morocco. I mean, I guess Spain have really got to, just get a point from that, and they're through, I guess. Morocco are out, so we'll see how they do. But, again, we don't quite know yet how good those sides are. Interesting times. This has been such a fascinating World Cup. It really has. I've really, really enjoyed it so far. Every game I've watched has provided not just kind of entertainment, but it's also provided just a really interesting kind of like tactical analysis of these teams, because international football is so different to regular club football. These managers, they have very little time to prepare their teams, and get together. I was reading about, I think it was the 1970 Brazil, before they went to the World Cup, they have 3 months together. Like, that is unheard of nowadays. And, by the time they got to the World Cup, they were just breathtaking. And, you feel like if some of these teams like Belgium or Spain or, some of these other sides, France definitely, had longer time together with their players, like they would be a lot more fluent. But at the minute, it feels very much like they're missing a cog or something like that, and it's a little bit stuttery. So the thing is, these sides are only going to get better as they play more together and as they advance in the competition, as they get more confidence. So even if you're scraping through the group stages, that's kind of okay, I think, right now. Denmark, Australia, 1-1. Australia, very, very gritty. Jedniak, I think, for a penalty again, wasn't it? I love Jedniak, being an ex-Palace captain. Eriksen with a fantastic goal, I think. Just what we would expect from Christian Eriksen, just fantastic technique. Really good player. Denmark, on paper, I think Denmark, they look good, but they're not really showing much at the minute. They've got 4 points from 2 games. I guess, they're going to go into that France game knowing that probably that a draw does them, I think. Peru are probably out. Australia, if they beat Peru by a few goals and Denmark lose to France by a few goals, I think Australia go through. But, I mean, I'll be hoping Australia go through, but I would imagine that it would be France-Denmark, probably. There'll probably be a draw there, I would imagine. It sees both teams through, I guess. France at the top, Denmark just below them. France again, beat Peru 1-0. Peru didn't look bad. They're not a bad side at all, Peru. France did what they needed. They had a slight change of tactics. They put Giroud up front. I think with France and possibly Belgium, I said that these teams like Spain, Brazil probably, some of these teams are only going to get better as the tournament goes on. I feel like maybe France won't, though, because they just seem very, very like fractured and like not really knowing what they're doing, I guess. Yeah, it's you look at that French side. For me, on paper, that is possibly the best side in the entire tournament. On paper, when you look at those players, and there's just something about it where they just don't have the right balance right now, and maybe they're trying to play certain players when a slightly lesser player could come in and give them a bit more balance, but it's difficult. They have such a good team, and so many good players. Griezmann, Kante, just phenomenal players, world class players, and Pogba, and just not quite clicking, are they? And I don't know if Deschamps is going to be able to get them to click, because he's been their manager for a long time now and they've never really clicked very well. So I don't know, we'll see, I guess. I think unless they do well, as in semi-finals at least, I couldn't see Deschamps carrying on. I don't know if he is going to carry on or not, but I would imagine they would probably look for another manager, because they've got a young side as well. So the Euros have got to be a target for them as the next World Cup. They've got some fantastic players coming through. So, there's a real bright future there for France. I don't know if they've got enough to win this World Cup, though. But, again, once you get to those knockout games, an individual piece of brilliance, it can just be enough sometimes. Argentina, Croatia. Wow. I watched this game, and, again, it was fascinating. Ooh. I think there's always one team at a World Cup who come along with high hopes, and that those hopes just get completely smashed in the group stages. Usually it's England, I think, to be fair. This year it could be Argentina. And one thing I will say is this: Croatia are very good. They are very good. Brozovic, Modric, Rakitic, wow. That is that kind of midfield three is so good, with Perisic on the left as well. I mean, that is like a world class midfield, without doubt. They've got a very solid defence, a decent keeper. Mandzukic is a good striker, but I don't really think they've got anybody else to kind of bring on instead of him. I mean, I think Croatia are a really good side, and certainly that team is a lot more balanced and a lot more kind of stable together than Argentina were. Argentina, I mean, it's fascinating. You look at that team on paper there, and you go, that's a good team. You look at some of the guys they've got on the bench there. Di Maria, Banega, Higuain, Dybala. That's good. That's good, right? Why? How did they play so badly? Because this wasn't just a 3-0 win by Croatia. This was like Argentina just collapsing, and yeah, they just, I don't know. Obviously, everything goes through Messi. Okay, that's clear. Not the worst thing in the world to do. Like, most things go through Ronaldo at Portugal. Okay, or most of the time they aim for Ronaldo, or they look to Ronaldo to do something. I think Messi's not... There's something not right with him at Argentina, like mentally. I think there is a massive burden on his shoulders to carry this country through. Everyone talking about, the fact that he can't be considered a great without winning a major tournament with Argentina, whether it's the World Cup or, I guess, not even the Copa America would be classed as that, so probably the World Cup. The TV cameras cutting to Diego Maradona every 5 minutes. If you're talking about Maradona and Messi, okay, this is the thing I would say. If I'm looking at that, I'm going, you know what, Maradona was a great player, okay? He was a great player, one of the best there's ever been. The guy was also a total asshole, okay? He was banned for drug offences, sent home in disgrace from a World Cup. Yes, he did win the World Cup for them. Yes, he did it not single-handedly. They had a very good team, but he was magnificent for them, when they won, and he led them to it. But like, in terms of a role model and a national hero, Messi is far superior. The things he's done for his club side, the way he's come through. He single-handedly led his country to, what is it, 3 out of the last 4 tournaments, the final. They haven't won, no, not necessarily his fault, but I feel like just this weight and this expectation is so heavy on him. And we see that sometimes with England, when you see like a young player come through or something like that, and everyone's like, oh, Rooney is a prime example. Oh, this guy's going to bring us through. Oh, he's world class. He's going to do it. And then at a tournament, he doesn't have a great tournament, which can happen to the best players. Not every player is going to go to a major tournament for whatever reason and be able to play, in the way they do. Maybe their international team doesn't play in a similar way to they play in a club style. It takes them, a good few games to try and adapt to it or get through, or maybe they never quite adapt to it. And definitely that's the way with Messi. Like, this Argentina side does not play like his Barcelona side play, and they don't have probably as good a quality players in a lot of areas. But yeah, I just feel like I feel sorry for the guy, because I genuinely believe he's one of the best players we've ever seen. And there's, in a similar way to like Pep Guardiola, where there's this thing of like, when people say, oh, he's one of the best managers ever, there's many people out there going, he's a fraud, he's a bald fraud, and there's so many people being like, which is just patently untrue. Like, we see so many times that just because you have the best players, it doesn't mean you're going to win all the stuff. It doesn't work like that in football. There's many times where a team, a team with not quite so good players as others comes through and wins the league. And I feel like the same way with Messi, is like there's this whole queue of people lining up to call him a fraud, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing, because these people obviously have not seen him play for like the last 10 years. Like, he's been phenomenal. He's been on another planet. Like, he's won so many things with Barcelona, and not just because it's like, oh, the Barcelona team's great. No, the Barcelona team is great, but it's great, as much because it has Messi as because it had Iniesta or Xavi or, Suarez or whatever. So I feel very sorry for him, because like, when that guy retires, we're going to miss like some fantastic play, some fantastic goals, more in a way than we will with Ronaldo. Like, Ronaldo, he can pull off a finish, brilliantly, and he, in the past, he can kick a free kick, he can, he has fantastic control and he can do that. But Messi's skill with the ball at his feet is, there's not been many players in the world who've ever had that. Obviously Maradona's one of them, a player like George Best would be another one, but there's not many players, and that is, I think, one of the kind of the things about him, and the things that I would pay to go and watch at a football match, is just that magic ability he has to just glide past players. And people are so obsessed about who's better, him or Ronaldo. They're completely different players. It's a totally redundant argument. You can turn around and go, they're both magnificent players, and we're lucky to be able to watch them play. And I feel lucky to have been able to watch them, right from their early days come through. I remember when Ronaldo signed for Man United from Sporting Lisbon. I remember that kind of first season when he was all about the stepovers, and he was this skinny lad, and people were like, who is this guy? He's not going to work out in the Premier League. And I remember Messi coming through the youth ranks at Barcelona, and everyone turning around saying, this guy's special. I just think it's such a redundant argument. It's ridiculous. They're two of the best players there's ever been in world football, and we're lucky that they play. But let's not forget, and this is the thing about this match, football is a team game. Okay, Croatia are a better team than Argentina. Maybe individually they're not as good, but they were so much better in midfield. They just absolutely destroyed Argentina. Just really so bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe if that Caballero doesn't miskick that, which, I mean, this is the thing. If you're going to play, the ball around at the back, okay, in the way like England are trying to do, in the way Spain do, in the way Argentina are obviously trying to do, they're trying to pass it around, retain possession, build the move up from the back. Okay, that's how a lot of teams try to play. That can be got at, okay, and by pressing. The idea is that you are accurate enough with your passing and tactically aware, football aware enough and good enough technically that that's not going to be as much of a problem. But there's always that fine line, isn't there? And sometimes things can happen, as we see with Caballero, where he will kick the ball up, he will try to pass the ball, and he miskicked it and it goes in the air. Now, I will give credit to Rebic. That was a hell of a finish. I mean, he really finished that ball, and he made them pay. And that's a sign of a quality player when you get that chance and you can finish like that. And I kind of feel sorry for Caballero from there, because you can see those mistakes happening, and it'll go out for a goal kick, or the keeper will push it over the bar, or it'll go wildly wide or something like that. But this time that ball went in, and with Argentina's shattered confidence, I think, to be fair, they really just crumbled after that, and Croatia did not give them an inch in midfield. Messi could not get on the ball. They just didn't look good. I mean, they just got completely overran in midfield, and you could see at the end it was like they had sort of 5 players up front and then 5 players in defence with no midfield, and Croatia were just laughing because that's what they want. They just controlled the ball, controlled the match. It was fantastic. The Argentina coach, there's rumours that he's not going to make it to the next match, as in like they're going to sack him before the next match, and there's rumours that the team's unhappy and stuff like that. I mean, I would say if they won the first 2 games, I think the team would. I don't think there would be talk of the coach going, if that makes sense. So it kind of feels a little ridiculous. By all means, at the end of the tournament you could sack him, but it feels a little bit like you're making yourself look worse if you sack him now. But we'll see, I guess. For Argentina to qualify then, let's have a look. Because are we going to see Argentina go out? This is the question. Argentina are going to be playing Nigeria. So if they win that game, they go to 4 points. If Iceland win against Croatia, they'll go on to 4 points. That is the match, right? Argentina, yeah. So there's still a long way for till. By no means certain that Argentina get knocked out here, because they are more than capable of beating Nigeria. The one thing I will say is Nigeria know they only have to get a draw in that game against Argentina, and they're pretty much through, unless Iceland can beat Croatia like 3-0, which seems very unlikely, right? So I don't know. What do Nigeria do? Do they just keep to their game plan? They had a really good 2-0 win over Iceland. I must admit I didn't watch this game, but that's a really good win for them. Everybody expected Iceland to beat them after their good 1-1 against Argentina. So what happens there? What happens in Iceland, Croatia? Croatia are through. They can't be stopped now. It seems very unlikely that Nigeria beat Argentina by 6 goals, which they would need. So I think Croatia go top of the group. Fantastic achievement. So are Croatia going to field a weakened side against Iceland? Does that mean Iceland are going to get a win? Are Argentina going to go gung-ho against Nigeria? But this way, you don't want to miss that match. That is going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait for that, personally. Okay, so where are we? Okay, we talked about Nigeria or Iceland, that's fine. I haven't got a lot to say about that because I honestly don't know too much about it. Brazil, Costa Rica I watched. This was a fascinating one. I feel very sorry for Costa Rica. They really put in a good performance. They were really compact. They really frustrated Brazil. But in the end, there's always that bit of quality about a side like Brazil. to be able to, just put the ball, to put the ball in the net, and that's, what they did at the end of the day. I thought defensively they did very well. They caused Brazil problems up the other end. Brazil, I mean, they're pretty much through now, right? Not mathematically, I don't think, but it seems quite likely. Neymar getting a goal, I think, was very important for him. He has not looked very good this tournament. I personally am not a fan of Neymar from a personality point of view. I was glad he got a haircut, though, I will say that much. But for me, he just cuts I feel like, get the ball at your feet and play. And there's always so much like looking for fouls and, so many theatrics and tempers, and everything just has to be about him. Everything has to be centered on him. And I'm like, oh my God, just, you have a fantastic team here. Okay, if they play as a team, they play to their strength. If he just gets his head down and plays football, this team is capable of winning the World Cup. Then it can be about him winning the World Cup with his team. But like, I don't know. I feel like I don't like. There's attention seeking in a way of Ronaldo, okay, who we've just come to expect it from, and it's almost laughable, okay. But the guy delivers like every time, and he's won nearly everything there is to win apart from the World Cup, which a lot of people don't expect him to win because they know that the rest of his team isn't good enough. But he scored 4 goals in this tournament, Ronaldo. He scored a hat-trick in the opening game. He has a right to that kind of arrogance. But also, I don't know. There feels like there's... With Neymar, I feel like he acts like he's the best player in the world, and he's nowhere near the best player in the world. Like, his ability is unquestioned. The guy is very good, but mentally, I don't know. Like, his move to Paris Saint-Germain was supposed to be about him supposedly winning the Ballon d'Or and, delivering Paris Saint-Germain to European glory. And, well, I mean, you've seen how that's gone. There's talk of him moving now to Real Madrid. I mean, where does it stop? Where does the Neymar train stop? I feel like he's going to get to a point where he's like 28 and he would have done nothing, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. Maybe he's going to win the World Cup with Brazil. But I feel like he's just got to get his head down and just play football, because he can undoubtedly play football and he can be brilliant. And I think towards the end of the match, he looked a lot better. Like, he kind of like, I don't know if there was something where he was just like, he started to get a bit mad, I think. And it just kind of like, he just got his head down and was like, right, I'm going to, go for this. And he looked better and he got the goal in the end. Fair play. And I think if he plays with that, if he plays with that kind of temperament of like, I'm going to, win this match, I'm going to like turn up basically, instead of just being like, oh, this is a Neymar show, I'm going to do a few tricks and we're going to win this match pretty easily, then they have a really good chance. So they're going to play Serbia next in another kind of fascinating group, really. Was it E? Yeah. I mean, they've only got to draw with Serbia or better and they're through. If Switzerland beat Costa Rica, that's the matches, right? Yeah. Which you would expect Switzerland to beat Costa Rica, then they're through with a really good record. And by the way, the Swiss looked really good against Serbia. It was a very good game. I fully expected Serbia to beat them. And Serbia went 1-0 up. And I thought, this is it. And the Swiss are not a bad side at all, are they? Maybe that 1-1 draw with Brazil was not the worst thing ever, So, yeah, I mean, Brazil have got a big game against Serbia. That's a tough game. Serbia know that if they win, they're through. If they draw, they're not, because of goal difference. So Serbia have got to win that game, and they're capable of doing that, I think. It'd be tough, and Brazil are more than capable of beating Serbia and causing them problems, but that would be a fascinating game. Switzerland, I fully expect to beat Costa Rica and probably finish up top of that group, potentially, unless Brazil can get a really good win against Serbia. So that will be fascinating to see. As I said, we've had such a fascinating World Cup so far. It's been brilliant. And that brings us through to kind of Belgium, Tunisia. We've got Korean Republic, Mexico to come. That's in about 20 minutes' time. Germany, Sweden, I think, is a kind of a big one. Everyone's expecting Mexico to wipe the floor with Korea. Mexico clearly want to counter-attack. Like, that's how they beat Germany. I think it's going to be a tough game for them because I don't think Korea are going to let them do that. So here's where we see a different side to Mexico. Are they going to be good enough to control the game? Keep pushing forward. Keep have players upfield, and that pace that they have that we saw against Germany, it's kind of nullified because we know Korea are going to sit back and play in a more conservative way to Germany. So yeah, fascinating. But then Germany have a must-win game against Sweden. Really, they have to get themselves back on track. They're capable of beating Korea. They're capable of beating Sweden. If they get 2 wins out of that, they could easily still top the group. So But if they don't get a win from that one, that's a very nervy last game. That's Argentina-esque, isn't it? And then we come to England, Panama tomorrow. So a lot of talk here about who's going to play. I think personally, they kind of had this, like, shall we say, quote-unquote leak of the team, where I think we saw Loftus-Cheek in for Ali because Ali's injured. So he was injured after all in that game. God knows why it took them so long to take him off. I have no idea. But that looked to be the case. And it looked like Rashford was coming on for Sterling. It's an interesting... I mean, the Ali one for Loftus-Cheek is a no-brainer. If Ali's injured, Loftus-Cheek looked great. Bring him on. Yeah, it's good. Panama are a very physical side. Loftus-Cheek is a very physical player. He's a big boy. So... that seems a no-brainer to me. The Rashford-Sterling thing is interesting because... That's a bird outside, by the way, if you can hear that. The Rashford-Sterling thing is interesting because Sterling has had a fantastic season with Man City, but he hasn't seemed to be doing as well with the England side for whatever reason. He clearly, and I say this, is a better player than Rashford is right now. But Rashford looks like he's got more confidence right now. We've seen that when he's come on and he's played, and that can make a huge difference in a player. What would I personally do? I think it's a really tough one because for me, if Raheem Sterling gets a couple of goals against Panama, has a really good game, he could be vital to England this World Cup. But on the flip side, if he plays him in this game against Panama, he doesn't do quite so well again. Where do we go from there? We then have the Belgian game where we're making these decisions again. If he brings in Marcus Rashford comes on, does well, looks good, one or two things are going to happen. Either it's going to spur on Sterling and it's going to wake him up a little bit, and he would have rested a game, potentially. Or, we turn around and go, Rashford's got to start against Belgium. He's going to cause them problems. It's going to be fascinating, I think, to see who he picks. I think he's going to go for Rashford. I look forward to seeing Rashford. I think he's a very good player. My prediction for this game would probably be 2-0 England. I don't see England getting like some massive score. I think Panama are a decent defensive side. I think England will probably, in a similar way to Tunisia, I think maybe get a fairly early goal, maybe get a second one, and then just kind of like control the game and then look towards that Belgium game. Again, we'll see. Panama are not the worst side in the world, but I think they showed that against Belgium that they are, capable of leaking goals. And again, we don't know how good that Belgium side are yet, so that's the real big game in the group. I think, is this the only group where it's got like the two big teams playing at the end? Yeah, probably, because Spain and Portugal played. I don't know who you count as this. I guess Denmark, so maybe France, Denmark. They're still to play, aren't they? So Argentina, Croatia have played. Brazil, Switzerland have played. Germany, Mexico have played. I'm guessing they're the big two. England, Belgium to play at the end. I don't know who the two big teams are in there. I guess Colombia, and we'll pick one of the others. So yeah, maybe this is the one where we won't know how good these teams are until we get there. Now, I don't know if I want to actually do this, tempt fate in this way, but I'm wondering who, looking at now, England's potential like opponents are going to be. So England are in what group? England are in Group G, aren't we? Yeah, we're in Group G. So if we come first, we'll play second in H, and if we come second, we play the first in H. So Group H is, yeah, here. So I think I'm confident we could beat any of these teams on our day if we turn up. Same with Belgium. I think they could easily beat any of these teams. Colombia is a bit more of an unknown because obviously they have that guy sent off, so we don't really know how good they are. But I mean, potentially right now they might not even qualify, so that could be tricky. And I think after that, it's the potential of having Brazil or Germany potentially, or Brazil or Germany could actually, I think, meet in the could potentially meet if Germany comes second or something, Brazil come first. I think they can meet in the last 16, so that could be fascinating to watch. Yeah. So depending on where we finish, yeah, obviously we can't really look at it right now, to be fair, but we'll see. Have we got? Here we go. Top goal scorers at the minute: Lukaku, Ronaldo. We've only had one red card. That's pretty good. We've had a lot of penalties and a lot of goals. 2.4 per match, I think, has to be one of the highest. Russia have scored the most goals. Look at that. The most attacks, Argentina. Fascinating. Fascinating. Most attempts, 12. Wow. Yeah, Kasper Schmeichel's been phenomenal for Denmark. I will say that much, definitely. Yeah, really good. Really, really good. Really good so far. Thoroughly enjoying it. Looking forward to England. I'll do a video after the England game just chatting about that. That'll probably go up maybe Sunday night, maybe Monday. Depends, because I'm working. Unfortunately, I have to work, would you believe, while England's on. Although I fully intend upon just sitting in the office and watching it. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. We'll see. But yeah, and then I'll definitely have the Belgium-England match off to watch there. So anyway, thank you for watching so far. I hope you've been enjoying the World Cup as much as me, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.